Hello, rudetoons. So this is a little video about my Vegan Cave Girls. At the moment I'm still waiting for the brand new editions to arrive. We've done a reprint of issue 1, issue 2, there's a new sketch cover edition and a new colour edition. And issue 1 has a slightly different cover and loads of new comic pages inside. Same for issue 2. Issue 2 has a brand new cover, some extra pictures inside. Because basically what happened is, let's see if this can pick it up. I made this original issue 1 in 2006-2007, and I only ever do a handful of copies, 10, 20, that sort of number. I don't like to print hundreds and hundreds of copies like some creators do, because then they end up with loads of comics in their house, in their garages and stuff, as they try to sell them over the years. What happened here is I eventually sold out of my issue 1s of Vegan Cave Girl and my issue 2s, just as a whole load of new people discovered Vegan Cave Girl and really got into it. So basically they were saying, have you got more copies? Have you got more copies? But I didn't. I sold out my last couple of copies, and I was like, well, what do? Do I just move on to issue 3? But a lot of people want issue 1. So I thought, well, issue 1's still good. I love it. It's classic. It's original. What I should do is allow people to have the same content they got in the original issue, but just bring it in with new stuff, because obviously 2007, it's 2018 now. That's a long time. My artwork's changed quite a bit. So the very original issue 1, it's hard to get hold of because I only did so many copies. I'm waiting for the new issues to arrive. Now, when I very first made issue 2, it was completely in colour. It's a front cover here. Dennis Budd did the colours. I did the drawing, created Vegan Cave Girl and everything. And as you can see, there's another one. Why? Because the very first edition of issue 2 I did was in full colour, and then I had to change printers. So when I changed printers, I had to do a black and white version, and I couldn't have as many pages as the colour version. So I turned the colour version black and white, I took a bunch of the pages out. That became a second edition of issue 2. Well, of course, now that's sold out and everybody's wanting issue 1 and issue 2. I said, okay, what can I do? I managed to go back to my original printers and find the original files for the first edition of issue 2. So the very first edition of issue 2 is now the colour edition. And the third edition of issue 2, since the second edition sold out, the third edition is black and white, but with extra artwork inside. So it's a bit hard to grab hold of it with one hand while I'm recording. Yeah. Oh. So as you can see, you see these extra pages at the back here. This is only in the colour edition. See? Oh, look at all that. It talks about the Pulp Girls release I did. You see? Now that's something cool, right? The colour edition has, let's try and get back there. There you go. Has the pages from the very first issue in colour. Oh, there we go. Oh, extra sketch cards, extra artwork, extra boobies. See? And this is how it has the issue 2 content in full colour by Dennis Budd. Drawn and written by me and stuff, right? So this is now going to be the colour edition, right? If you want to pre-order it, because I'm taking pre-orders, comics are supposed to arrive the end of March. That's the colour edition. Now this edition is technically got a problem there. It's technically sold out because this is the second edition of issue 2, right? So you saw a lot of the extra pages there. Now there's blank pages because that allows me to do a sketch inside comics, you see. Now look, see, I had to take a bunch of the pages out. And see how it's grayscale, black and white. You see? So, for the black and white normal edition of issue 2, that will come with a brand new cover. It's got brand new pin-ups inside, but it's got a lot of the inside content of this one for you, so that nobody misses out. I don't want anybody to miss out. You've got the option to get the colour edition, which will still have this cover, but you've got the option of getting the 3rd edition of issue 2, which will have a different cover to this cover, and it will also be stapled rather than glued. Now, you might go, what's the difference? The difference is, when it's normal comic size and it's stapled, you can open it right up and you can see inside much easier than when it's glued. Now, that's something I discovered through self-publishing on different websites. It doesn't, you think glued, stapled, it doesn't make that much of a big difference, but it actually does when you're opening it up and you start to see the pages kind of go inside a bit, and it doesn't want to open up fully. That's what happens with glued comics. Now, it's not too bad when they're thick, like this colour edition. Can you see how thick that is? See, it doesn't only cost more, because these are going to cost £6, but they come signed and with a free sketch. This costs more not only because it's full colour and I'm not printing loads, but it costs more because it's actually thicker as well. You see, these are my personal copies. I'm still waiting for the ones from the printers. I ordered them around the start of what was it? February, I think. I ordered them around the start of February, and they said, all right, they'll be here around the end of March. And I was like, oh, that's a long time. And it feels like a long time, and then it feels like a long time when you're starting to do pre-orders. But actually, when I started collecting all my envelopes and cardboard boxes and started writing down pre-orders, the time suddenly flies by, because all of a sudden I'm writing down people's addresses, I'm getting emails from people saying, how much are these comics? If I only want issue 1 and the colour edition, how much is that? If I want the sketch cover editions, how much is that? I should have put one of the sketch cover editions on the video, actually. I didn't think of that. The sketch cover edition is different again. Not only does it have a blank cover for me to draw on, and it's got a bit of issue 2 in it, but it's also got a comic by a friend of mine, Elfie. She's a French artist. She usually does manga and she self-publishes books that are super thick. So this is VeganCaveGirl, right? These are my copies. You can't have these. You'll get the new copies that are coming. So there's a 2nd edition of issue 1, slightly different cover, with 18 brand new comic pages in. Right, 18, full of action. Vampires get killed, troglodyte monsters get killed, boobies and all that. You can get the colour edition. You'll be able to get the 3rd edition of issue 2, different cover, extra pin-ups inside, and you can get a sketch cover edition. Now, if you go on Instagram, there's a couple of adverts on there that have all the costs for each issue and the post and packing, because it's basically £10 post and packing for me to send 2 issues, but it goes up to 15 if I'm sending 2 or more, like 3 issues, 4 issues, because when you consider that this comic is substantially thicker than issue 1 and issue 2, and then if you add a sketch cover on top, which then has a thicker cover stock, suddenly the actual weight of a parcel increases, because you got to remember, if that's 4 comics, then not only are they getting signed, but I'm doing a free surprise sketch with each issue. So suddenly I'm putting them in a comic protecty cardboard boxy thing, putting them in the mail, and they're costing a bomb to mail. They come with international tracking, so you'll get an international tracking number to follow it. But there you go then. That's some Vegan Cave Girl information for you. I hope you found it insightful. I am still Boo Rudetoons, and that's the end of that.